Well, let's see here. I might not be Morgan Freeman, but this is... Classic Gamer Reviews.
In the 90s, Super Nintendo games were much simpler than today's movie games, which is probably what led to many movie game success stories. If you wanted to make a movie video game, you just turned it into a platformer, and who doesn't like that style of games?
Whatever the reason may be, there was no shortage of good movie games for the Super Nintendo, and each one was more memorable than the last.
And then there's the movie video game. It was made by Capcom, and it's Aladdin for the Super Nintendo. But don't judge the game by its cover, because it's what's on the inside that counts. If you bought a movie game nowadays for the Xbox 360 or something, you'd have a better chance of shooting yourself in the head and living than you would at actually having fun. However, it wasn't like that back in the 90s, because buying a movie-based video game was a pretty safe bet for a good time, and it's games like Aladdin that back that up.
When they were still making Super Nintendo games, I was a young kid, and I didn't have enough money to save up and buy the games myself, so my mom and dad bought me Aladdin, because I did like the movie, and so they thought it was a safe bet for a game that I'd like.
And holy shit did I like it. I couldn't have wished for a better game. The moment you start up Aladdin, you know it's going to be a good time. The upbeat music and faithful cutscenes, which are always in a small box for some reason, all create a great tone for the journey ahead.
A journey which I may add pretty much has perfect controls. Not too tight and not too loose.
What are you saying about me?
No, I'm talking about Aladdin for the Super Nintendo.
The controls are complemented by the flexible movement of Aladdin as you're able to bounce, swing, and grab obstacles. Which is good, because for a lot of the enemies, the only means of killing them is by jumping on their heads. Which is different from the other just as well-known Aladdin game for the Genesis. You see, in that one you have a sword as a weapon, but Aladdin for the Super Nintendo has you jumping on enemies and throwing apples at them. Everything from swords that enemies use and swords that walk on their own are present, but you can only use apples. But the apples only stun a majority of the enemies. Yes, you can kill Iago and these pot things, which does make sense as realistically hucking an apple at a parrot would kill it. But for most of the enemies, you're just gonna kill them by Super Nintendo's overused jumping on an enemy's head to kill them technique. However, the enemies are usually placed where you're gonna land anyway, so it's not that big of a problem. What it sacrifices in weapons when compared to the Genesis version, it gains in fun platforming. So undoubtedly, this makes common enemies the game's weakest point. But the charm isn't in the bad guys. This isn't Mortal Kombat. Or is it?
Finish him!
No, the charm is in the game itself. Every level has its own unique feel, and it just makes the game feel excellent.
Hold on. Is that a penis? The game incorporates a lot of small things that always brought a smile to my face. What really surprises me is that the genie is able to maintain his charm from the movie version over to the video game. And it makes for a really fun time. Charm is packed into every corner of this game. What I thought was pretty funny is that at this part of the game, you see that the diamonds are used to make a smile in this face. And it's just stuff like that that makes the game enjoyable, because you don't find stuff like that nowadays in video games, which is really sad. The first stage of the game actually has a boo following you around, and that's charming as well. It doesn't add anything in terms of gameplay, but it's still fun to see. When I was a kid, I used to make him jump off the cliff and try to finish the level without him, and he's pretty keen to wanting to kill himself. I guess the genie wishes him back to life, though. He evens up the score, though, by telling me to jump off a cliff. All joking aside, though, I do like how he tells you to jump off this ledge, because had he not been pointing down, it would have been very unclear on where I had to go next. And I like how the developers knew that. It's moments like these that show how special the bond between Aladdin and Boo really is. Man and monkey joining together. Sometimes, though, Abu can get a bit too affectionate, like when he sticks his fist up Prince Ali's bum-bum. Like most movie games for the Super Nintendo, the game incorporates stuff that wasn't necessarily in the movie. I don't remember Abu falling off the carpet and going into a temple, but who the fuck cares? Why? Because it introduces more into the game, there's more levels to play because of this, and it has a really fun boss fight. And this is okay, because all the major events from the movie are in the game. So all Capcom was doing was really just adding ice into the cake, incorporating some parts of the movie into the game that other companies would have just skipped. Every part of the movie is basically here, even the carpet scene, which is so peaceful. Although the game is pretty easy, it does feature some difficult levels, such as the Cave of Wonders with lava flowing everywhere. Fuck. Shit. Fuck. Fuck. Yeah, that's right, Aladdin, just give up. I've never really understood the last boss fights, however. The first fight is not as fun and it's against Jafar as a human, while the last fight is against Jafar as a snake. However, Jafar as the snake is much easier than him as a human, and I never really understood that. Why make the last boss weaker than the second to last boss? But who the fuck cares, because fighting him as a snake is fun. And that's it. If you haven't played Aladdin, go into it knowing that you're gonna get a fun, charming platformer that just shows there is potential in movie games. I would like to know though, which Aladdin do you think is better, the Genesis or the Super Nintendo version? Let me know in the comments below. And now, I would like to end with a song. Movies, that's crap, you won't buy that. If only you'd look closer, would you find a good game? Yes, sirree. You'd find out there's so much more.